Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Never an Afterthought show. My name, Afolabi Imoukhuede. I'm the author of the book, Never an Afterthought, and the anchor for this show, the Never an Afterthought. As I often say, it's a privilege for you to have us in your home. We recognize your privacy. We recognize your power of choice. There are millions of channels wherein you could be watching and spending your time, but to tuning into us, to listen to us, we appreciate that and we do not take that for granted. Therefore, it is my privilege to welcome you to another edition of our show, The Never an Afterthought. Now, before we go too far, why do I call it our show? I say it's our show because of that hashtag called the hashtag Never an Afterthought. That's the hashtag by which we join and continue these conversations across all our social media channels, Twitter at NAA_book, Facebook and Instagram at NA Afterthought. Of course, you have your email. You know I love to read from you, podcast at neveranafterthought.com. You can always leave a comment on the comment section of the platform wherein you're listening or watching me. So yes, today is exciting. It is exciting because we're on to another special edition in honor of the memory of my blessed mom and Sisi of life, Mrs. Olubunmi Olayinka Okikiola Imoukhuede, ni Olusoga. She journeyed this life within the years of 1945 to 2020. She actually transitioned on that blessed Friday, May 1st, 2020. Then you may wonder why we're doing it in the month of April. Well, I said to you before, the month of April is very personal to me now, because for her, she started bidding us farewell in the later days of the month of April. Incidentally, that farewell started on Daddy's birthday, April 25, 2020. And she stayed with us for 6 more days and transitioned May 1st. And so I thought that since today is the last Thursday of the month of April, and in another 2 days, it would be May 1st, I thought that it was important to dedicate today's show to our loving memory. We did the same last week, and I want to thank you for those of you that tuned in, wherein we dedicated last week's show to the memory of my dad, his centenary posthumous celebration, Chief Joseph Imoukhuede Imoukhuede, my dad and husband to my mom. And thanks for all of you that tuned in. Thanks for all of you that sent in your comments and your feedbacks and your prayers and well wishes for the family. It's also the month of April where I want to take a special second to celebrate my brother and friend and indeed my 2IC, Roland Akalua. It was also his birthday on April 23rd. So to all April celebrants, we celebrated you in advance earlier in our episode, the first episode for this month. And I just want to say happy birthday again to those of you who've celebrated and to those of you who are yet to celebrate between today and the end of the month. So yes, today is to celebrate Sisi's life. We are not sorrowing. We are not mourning. And the reason is simple. As much as our exit is very painful to us, it is still so surreal. We can't believe it's been a year. But the truth of the matter is this. She has run our own race. She has finished her course, and right now she is resting. She's resting from her labors. And trust me, she had quite a few labors. And for those of you, if you stay on with us, you will watch an excerpt of her live documentary during the course of the show. But she's resting now, and she's handed over the baton to us to ensure that we continue to run this race called life, and that we run it in a way that is godly, with the Christian godly values that she left with us, so that we can be sure to meet with her again at the feet of Christ. That is our promise. That is our faith as Christians. Because as she began to say to me in the last few days, she was like, "Afolabi, Jeki Malole," meaning let me go home. And home she is now. So yeah, that's what it is. So as we're preparing for our first year memorial, which will be on Saturday, May 1st, 2021. Details will be at the end of the show. We'll share some details for you all to join us at the end of the show. I thought to put this together for her, and I wouldn't be doing this alone. I have a special auntie here with me, and who is a special aburo to Sisi herself. She will be joining me right after the break. So let's go on a short break and catch up with me after this break. Thank you.
Sweet mother, I no go forget you for the suffer way you suffer for me. Sweet mother, I no go forget you for the suffer way you suffer for me. When I dey cry, my mother go carry me. She go say, my pikin, wetin you dey cry, yo yo? Stop, 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 stop. Make you no cry again, oh. When I was sleep, my mother go bed me. She go lie me well, well for bed, oh. She cover me cloth, say make you sleep, 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 my pikin, oh. When I dey hungry, my mother go run up and down. She dey find me something when I go chop, oh. Sweet mother, sweet mother, oh, eh, oh. So mama, sweet mother. When I dey sick, my mother go cry, cry, cry. She go say instead when I go die, make she die, oh. She go beg God, God help me, my pikin, oh. Oh, my mother. If I no sleep, my mother no go sleep. If I no chop, my mother no go chop. She no dey tire her, sweet mother. I no go forget the suffer way you suffer for me, yeah, yeah. Sweet mother, yeah, sweet mother, oh, yeah. Oh, sweet mother, I will never forget you. For the suffer you suffer for me. And if I should forget you, therefore I forget my life. The air I breathe in. Yeah, so. And there are you men on earth, dare you not forget your mother. For if you forget your mother, you lost your life. Sweet mother, I no go forget you for the suffer way you suffer for me. Sweet mother, I no go forget you for the suffer way you suffer for me. Yeah. When I dey cry, my mother go carry me. She go say, my pikin, wetin you dey cry, yeah, yeah. Stop, 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 stop. Make you no cry again, oh. Oh, my mother, oh, sorry. When I was sleep, my mother go bed me. She go lie me well, well for bed, oh. She cover me cloth, say make you sleep, 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 my pikin, oh.
Greetings again. Welcome to another exciting episode of our show, the Never an Afterthought Show. For those of you just joining us, I want to say welcome, and don't forget our hashtag, the Never an Afterthought, by which you join and continue these conversations across all our social media channels, Twitter at NAA_book, Facebook and Instagram at NA Afterthought, email podcast@neveranafterthought.com, and surely you can leave your comments, as I can see them already on the platform wherein you are listening or watching me. Yes, so today we have a special edition, a special feature to celebrate the life and times of my mother, my Sisi, Olubunmi Olayinka Okikiola ni Olusoga. And so that's what we'll be doing today. But we will, our topic today, I realized I hadn't introduced that before the break. Today we'll be discussing the topic, our women, our mothers, are silent achievers. Our women, our mothers, are silent achievers. And the inspiration for this actually came from one of our episodes. I think it was episode 18 with intergenerational conversation. And when Professor Oluwaina, who is an emeritus professor now, an octogenarian, was telling his story and was telling us of the role his mother played in who he became today. In that story, and if you didn't watch, you can always catch a rewatch, he mentioned how he was pulled away from school to go to the farm at some point because his father thought he wasn't doing well, and how the mom, though not very literate, secretly sent a message on to his own elder sister, and complaining, who obviously at that time had graduated and was settling in with her husband and family in Abeokuta, and how Prof, being the first child and the first son, like, Daddy has done this, so he has pulled your brother away from school. And that's how that, secret or silent task of his mother caused the sister to then write a letter to dad, which was his dad, which was a stern letter. And that's how within 2 days he was pulled back away from the farm and returned to school. And the rest is history for someone who in life rose to now become an emeritus professor. Such what you may call inconsequential acts of mothers. See how it turned out. And that's when the inspiration for this topic came. And I thought, this would be a good way to celebrate Sisi's life when we get to today's show. So as I said before the break, I won't be doing this alone. I'm going to be doing it with a special auntie of mine that we all love to call Aunty Edna. And let me read her profile. She's also a beloved aburo to Sisi herself. Aunty Edna was born over 60 years ago as the eldest daughter to an illustrious son of Arigidi in Ondo State, to late Baba Ijo Adewunmi, and a third child to her mother, late Madam Abeke Adenike Adeoye of Iwade in Ijebu-Ife, Ogun State. After primary and secondary education in Nigeria, she proceeded to United Kingdom at the London School of English and Secretarial Studies, Oxford Street, London. Started her career right after that as a secretary in the early 80s with Icon Limited Merchant Bankers, which I think became IMB, popularly known IMB, and proceeded to United Kingdom right after that again to study law. She then obtained a law degree from the Northeast London University, and later on a master's degree in oil and gas law from the prestigious University of Dundee in Scotland. Worked with the Primus Inter Pares law firm of Chris Ogubanjo and Co. for 10 years and graciously rose to become a senior counsel and head of litigation. Resigned in 1998 to set up her own law firm. The summary of her life so far, still counting, because it's just 6 decades and counting. She's a blessed widow, surrounded by blessed children and indeed grandchildren. In her spare time, practices yoga, aqua aerobics, swimming, and I can add to say that she loves God and is very involved in, godly and all manner of Christian activities. That much I can add to say. So, Aunty Edna, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's good to have you on the Never an Afterthought show. And it's interesting that you're coming as we celebrate Sisi, who you love. You loved, and not only you knew and related with her as well. So, so can you just tell us, what do you remember, or what do you remember most, or perhaps miss most about Sisi this last 1 year? And please feel free, just walk us through his conversational, and you can say anything and everything.
Well, to the glory of God, I knew Sisi for better part of 40 years. Growing up as a child in St. John's Anglican Church, Aroloya in the Lagos Island. So growing up, we looked up to her as a mother. And I think sometimes in 2007, I had the privilege of being appointed as the chairperson of the Harvest Committee in Lagos, in the church. So with that, I was exposed to a lot of our mothers, our fathers, and the younger generation as the chairperson of the Harvest Committee. Most of the times, we held meetings at Oil Mill, which was where Sisi resided.
The family house.
The family house. So Sisi stayed upstairs, and we had our meetings downstairs. And on every blessed occasion, Sisi would come downstairs and pray for the Harvest Committee, pray with the Harvest Committee, and she was so generous. She made a lot of food items available to us. She accommodated us, and at every occasion during the harvest, Sisi was there. And ever smiling. I think that is number one about Sisi. And you can see Afolabi has taken over that smiling. Sisi smiled every time. There was no dull moment. She had a very, very good heart for everybody. And of course, in the church, we're all missing her tremendously.
Thank you very much. And when you talked about Harvest Committee, it reminds me of Mommy Wayo Olusoga, as you all will call her, which was actually Sisi's mom and my own grandmom. And I, of course, grew up remembering Harvest Committee. She was many times vice chairman at different roles she held in the Harvest Committee. So it looks like, Ingo, you have now inherited some of these things because you're actively... So what motivates you to do this? Because not many people of your achievement status will find it, worthwhile to spend time in the things of God. So what's your own motivation for this?
Well, to the glory of God, I grew up in an Anglican environment. My late father, Baba Ijo, was the Baba Ijo of St. Paul's Anglican Church, Arigidi. So growing up in an environment like that, of course, you had no choice but to do God's work. And incidentally, his own mother was the Iya Ijo of the same church before my father.
Yeah.
So again, in an environment like that, I was so blessed. And like I said, in 2007, when the vicar of the church, the Venerable Odubeno, realized that we had challenges with the financial situation of the church, a couple of the members of the parish council at the time contacted me and solicited my support for the Harvest Committee. And eventually I was appointed the chairperson of the Harvest Committee. So it's a privilege to work for God. And when you see the lives of Sisi, and your grandmother was Mama Hallelujah.
Yeah.
When you grew up with mothers like that, who dedicated their lives to serving God and looking after their children, it's a privilege to walk in their footsteps and to be counseled and be mentored by most of them, which was what happened to me then.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. That's so very, very inspirational. So I want us to, so a lot of our viewers, they've heard your profile. So I want to ask, because for the sake of our viewers, I read out your profile, and that's a very summarized profile. And I must first say congratulations, because I know you are an achiever yourself. And so for the sake of the viewers, I want you to walk us through your own journey. It's been 6 decades now and counting, but just walk us through your journey. First, as a daughter, and because I note you wrote there the first child or first daughter, and I think first child too, right?
Yes.
Aha. First child and first daughter. In the context today where girl child education is a thing and it's a topic of conversation, how did it play out for you? Did you have to struggle to be educated? Were there counsel for you to be educated because you're first daughter, or it was just, what was your experience? Because that's something that girl child education is a major topic of conversation right now.
So for me, I grew up in a polygamous home. And as the eldest child of my father, however, the third of my mother, I wasn't under pressure to go to school as such. I think in those days it was taken for granted. You just had to go to school. It was not whether you would go or not. And my father then believed so much in education. He said several times that he didn't go to school as such. However, that what he owed all these children are to ensure that they're educated. So when I had my primary school education in Lagos, he counseled me and explained to me that I had to go to his village. It was not a matter of choice. As the eldest child, I had to be brought up in the environment of his home. And I went to the secondary school in my village in Arigidi, Akoko Anglican Grammar School. One, to be able to familiarize with my siblings, my grandmother. I was able to speak the dialect. The dialect was very, very important to my father.
Wow.
Because I remember him saying to me severally that sometimes when you go out in the public space and you speak Yoruba, a lot of people around you are familiar with Yoruba. However, if you have a dialect is confidential, it's private. And my father delighted so much in that anytime we went out, that he would speak to me in a dialect. And people would look at us and say, oh, so they have a dialect. And most cases we have to translate. So that encouraged me. And my father was there for me all the time, every step of the way. He encouraged me to go to school. My mother was there. Yes, she was married to somebody else at the same time. But you know what mothers are like? They're in a matrimonial home, but they never let go. Spiritually, physically. They're always praying for you. She looked after me. So I think I was quite blessed to have gone to school in an environment where it was a privilege. Like I said, you know, in my CV, I had my secondary school education in Nigeria, and I had my A-levels in England, Holborn Law Tutors at the time, which was the best place to go for law studies. So graduated from there, I did my first degree, and my father kept saying to me, listen, you haven't started. You know, if my father had a choice, I would have had a PhD in law.
Wow.
But I think because, again, I had to get married, and I couldn't have spent the whole time educating myself, studying and so on. So it was a balancing act between saying, okay, now you have a master's degree. I think it is time for you to settle down and have a home as well.
Wow. So, you know, thank you. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers will draw a lot of inspiration from what you're saying around, especially again around girl child education, because for every of our episode on this show, and that's the Never an Afterthought, what we are saying is that we need to pass strong messages out there. And so, yes, for those of you and us who grew up in the southwestern part of the country, it's a privilege to know that 6 decades ago when you were born, at least education was a thing. It had to be with Paolo, who championed free education in the entire western region. Even my father, extracts of the Midwest, coming from western region, they were beneficiaries of that. And so the role of education still becomes so very important, and especially girl child education. So you are a beneficiary. Clearly your own kids and family and everyone around you will continue to be beneficiaries, but there are some girl child right now in different parts of the country that are not this privileged, and so it's important to use platforms like this, you know, to celebrate you know, the importance of education and girl child education. So yes, the next question I was going to actually come to, you started talking about it, and that's where again we can begin to see the balance and sometimes compromise with the girl child education. Now, you heard it. If you were let's say if you were a man now, you probably will have your PhD. You would have your PhD in law, especially getting that push from daddy. But because, okay, we will say that we are the one pushing you to go all the way, and then at the same time we wonder why Mokowale and all that and what have you. So yes, so tell me, because I was going to say the next thing is, how then did you've told us now about girl child education, your young education, your teenage life in UK and your various levels of education. So coming into marriage, what was it like for you? Were there pressures? Were there pressures also in finding the suitor? Because, when you already have some level, I mean, they say it that men run away from ladies that have began to achieve. So is that true? I don't know. What would be your...
Well, for me, I think that if I want to be sincere with you, my journey in life was not that straightforward. As to say, you finished your primary education, you went to university, you went to all that. No. Mine was a journey that glorified God, in the sense that when I finished my secondary school, I actually had a break. I will call it a break, in the sense that I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
At that stage. And in the good old days, it was, if you got pregnant at that age, that was the end of your career. That was the end of life. It was that, in the villages, they would call it pé wọ́n lè yàn gbóyún. And anybody tó máa lọ gbóyún was a stigma. But guess what? Because of the fact that my father loved me so much, cared so much, I realized that maybe some of the challenges I had was because of the polygamy that was in existence at the time. Let's just be realistic. We take a lot of things for granted when we talk about children. Children in polygamous homes go through a lot. Some we cannot even explain for weeks and months. However, you find that the support of either the father or the mother saying to the child, this is not the end of life. You just have to keep going and make progress of it. That encouraged me. So in spite of the break, as I will call it, I went on to do my A-levels. I went on to do my first degree. I went on to do my master's. And I must say it here that the saying is that train a girl and you train the whole world. To the glory of God, maybe because of that attitude and the grace that I had growing up, without being arrogant about it, I will tell you that all my daughters have master's degree today. All my daughters, they have the first degree and they all have their master's education. Why? You see, because when you go through life, you go through some challenges that will either make you or break you. So you have a choice. And when the attitude is, listen, I'm here to survive, you're training a girl to train a family, to train the whole world. You train a woman and she's not only playing a supportive role, but she manages the home. And she's going to imbibe and send the messages to the children, not only to the boys. We've gone past the age of saying the boys should succeed. The girls must succeed as well.
Yeah.
Because the girls are looking after the homes, and if they succeed, and if you have trained them to know that it is not a choice to succeed, you must work hard. Those of us from the villages, I'm proud to be from Arigidi, Ondo State. Our parents trained us to be hardworking. They tell you there's no shortcut. There are no corners. My grandmother would tell you, if you're climbing a palm tree, you go straight. You make shortcuts or you take corners, you're on the floor. So you have a choice. So it's either you go slow and steady and make your to the top, or you try and make some turnings and you find yourself on the floor and you start all over again. So I think that's probably the message for me.
Well, this is so rich, and a lot of there's so much you said in such a short time, and I want to relate this to a few things. In fact, I imagine our viewers who have watched consistently now for perhaps the last 3 episodes will be picking something that's been consistent, and it's been the home. It's been the home. It's been the home. We've said in previous episodes, and we're repeating it again here today, that home remains the bedrock of society. That the home, in the first place, is the first place where mentorship should begin. We all will grow up in life and take our different journeys and pick different mentors along the way, but the foundation starts from the home. Now, you've brought in even another aspect, which I find very similar to Sisi's life, another aspect of the home, as the mother being the balancer, the mother being the support person. Because the question then is, if the mom or if the mother, which is our girls, because it's our girls that become the mother, that become the wife to become the mother, and all of that, if our girls are now not given the education to succeed or the requirements to win, like we will say on this show, how then can they become good balancers, good house managers? Do you understand?
Absolutely.
So it's therefore a real privilege for your daughters who have come through you. That today they are at the very level minimum master degrees holders, and that's the experience we saw growing up with Sisi as well. At a point, and like I shared in the public tribute last year at her funeral, she left paid job to be able to focus on us, just to ensure that we had that right, home bringing. She left her paid job, a career job with NAA, which was ECN at the time. She started a home business just to be sure that she was there with us every point of the time. She never delegated her role in coming to pick us from school. The generosity you spoke about started, even we knew it from then. Once she comes, there's this fun ice cream bicycle
yes.
at the door. She's not buying for just us. She's buying for all friends that walk out of the school gate with us. Some wrote it even in a tribute. I remember those ice cream. And then there was also Kingsway Rendezvous at that time that also had the bicycle, we pick donuts and things like that. So we were sure that once she comes to pick us, and things like that. And that's the act, that mothers play. And that's what you are mentioning right now. So I want to ask, can you tell us in specific terms, what are some of the balancing acts that mothers have to do with their children, with their fathers? Sometimes the good cop, bad cop, you play the good cop, daddy will play the bad cop, daddy will play the good cop today, mom will play the bad cop, and then just trying to ensure that the children have the best kind of upbringing. So what comes to your mind readily, some of those acts that mothers have to play?
For me, when I had my break, as it were, of course, my father came out with a big stick. Why, how dare you? How can you do this to me? What happened? Questions. Some I couldn't answer. But my mother was, okay, it has happened. We can ask all the questions from now to tomorrow. Where do we go from here? So I had a child that had to be taken care of. And my mother said, listen, I'll take care of the child. Let her go back to school. So when you talk of bad cop, of course she reprimanded me. She wasn't happy about it. But guess what? No mother would throw her child away. The love of the mother to a child, you can't explain it. It's unconditional. Whatever you are in life, your mother will embrace you. She may scold you in public. She may tell you whatever, but when the chips are down, she wants you to succeed. So, of course, my mother was there for me as my nanny. And that made it a lot easier for me, because then I could focus. I had learned my lessons. I had to move on in life, and I had to, to make the best of it. And I think the same opportunities are not available to the young girls of these days. Let us face it. Mothers are full-time professionals. Some mothers wake up at 5:30 in the morning. They leave children with nannies, and they come back at what, 7 o'clock in the evening. Sometimes the children are sleeping. And God forbid you have a challenge like that. How do you cope? You yourself, you're struggling to survive. Most of our mothers were not full-time office workers. Maybe like Sisi, she had some petty trading, but she still had the time for her children. She still had the time to say, give you ice cream. Most mothers now delegate giving of ice cream to nannies, to stewards, to drivers pick up children from school. So that is a great challenge. However, at the same time, that does not mean that mothers do not care. Mothers have different roles. In life, I have seen situations whereby the mother might be the one with the big stick, and the father might be the one with the carrot. I think parents tend to complement each other. Yeah. In most families, you have a goat as a father and you have a sheep as a mother, or vice versa. And they work together as a team to bring up the children. What is important is that we bring up God-fearing children that are aware of their environment. The world is competitive. It's a global village. They must be equipped to face the world, especially the girls. And I'm so happy that the girls are going places now. They're not taking the law for granted. They know that sometimes in life, you have to work twice as hard. What comes to my mind, when I started working as a counsel in the law firm in Lagos, I remember in the 80s going to court. And sometimes when I appeared in court, it was like, oh, the scent is a girl, inverted commas, because I look quite young. It's a girl. And sometimes, with due respect to the men, they tend to take you for granted. What's he going to say? So that made me work twice as hard. I had to be on top of my game. I was not prepared to take adjournments. And I had to do my best to learn so much, to be able to let them understand that, no, you're not just lipstick and pencil. You have something you can deliver. And because you've earned it, and it takes the grace of God to work hard on it. So I have no doubt that the girls are working twice as hard.
I'm just going to pause you because what you say now hit on an episode we had before when we talked about women and igniting the power within, especially talking about women of color in corporate America. But I'm going to pause you and we'll take a short break. I'll be back right after the break.
Sasa Rockafee just presenting you Sweet Mother. Sweet Mother, I no go forget you for the suffer way you suffer for me. Sweet Mother, I no go forget you for the suffer way you suffer for me. When I dey cry, my mother go carry me. She go say, my pikin, wetin you dey cry, yo, stop.
Ẹ ṣé ibi tá ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, ẹ ṣé ibi tá gẹ̀dẹ̀. Mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù, ibi tẹ́ mú mi lọ. Ẹ ṣé ibi tẹ́ ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, ẹ ṣé ibi tẹ́ bá dé. Mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù, ibi tẹ́ mú wa lọ.
the loss of 2 husbands and her first son, Tuji, did not relent her faith in Christ.
She lived a life of a sojourner. When the Bible says that we are all sojourners on earth, generosity, humanitarian, a life of impact.
Everything that you are, God be with you. Thank you, ma'am.
She was a loving and caring mother. She loved us so much that she doesn't mind going the extra length to, if she sees that we need any help whatsoever, she'll find a way of helping.
Sisi, wọ́n jẹ́ ẹni tó nígbàlà ọkàn, ìyẹn ni pé ẹni tí ó mọ Ọlọ́run. Ayé tí èèyàn bá wá sí tí ò ní ìgbàlà ayé asán ni. Mo máa miss ẹ̀ torí àwọn òbí àgbàlagbà oríṣiríṣi ló wà tá a máa rí nínú ìjọ, ṣùgbọ́n ipò tí ìyá yìí tó dì mú ọ̀tọ̀ ni.
She was a very quiet woman, unassuming. And one thing that is so unique about her is that if there is anything to be done in the church, if there is anything that has to do with finance that want to do in the church, she will not hide herself from it. She will do her own quietly. She will do quiet donation where people will not know.
Who am I? Why should I carry God? Who am I? What do I have? I don't have anything. But I have God. That one alone is good for me. I don't have money. Because God has given me all these children. Now what else do I want again? Unless I'm not grateful to God. I can't see the 2 roofs. It's only one. And that one roof there, that bed. It's only one side and the other side. Unless I roll down to that the other side. So why am I down here at age 74? I want to build this. I'm not going to carry this one to heaven to Baba God now. So my own now is to read book, Bible, sing, thank God.
ìyá ni wọ́n, ìyá tí èèyàn lè máa fi kí èèyàn máa fi wọ́n proud náà jẹ́ fún wa nínú ẹgbẹ́ à enjoy wọn, kò sóhunkóhun tá a béèrè lọ́wọ́ tí wọ́n ń ṣe fún wa.
Gbàgbọ́ mi dúró lórí ẹ̀jẹ̀ àtò dodo Jésù, mo jẹ́ gbẹ́kẹ̀lé ohun kan lẹ́yìn orúkọ ńlá Jésù. Mo dúró Kírísítà àpáta, ilẹ̀ mìíràn ìyanrìn ló jẹ́ mo dúró lé Kírísítà àpáta ayérayé, bàbá òye.
Greetings again. Yes, if you're just joining us, you need to catch up. It's been an exciting 35 minutes with my own Aunty Edna, Aunty Edna Akande, who's been our guest on today's show, as we have discussed and will continue discussing the topic, our mothers, our women, our mothers, silent achievers. And this topic is in memory. We dedicated today in special loving memory of my Sisi, Sisi of life, my mom, Mrs. Olubunmi Olayinka Olusoga, who traversed this earth between the year 1945 and 2020. So yes, it's still a good time to join us, and don't forget our hashtag, the Never an Afterthought, by which we continue in this conversation across all our social media channels. Twitter at NAA_book, Facebook and Instagram at NAA Afterthought. Our email is there, podcast@neveranafterthought.com. And last but not the least, continue with the comments wherein you are on the platform where you are watching or listening to me. So yes, it's been an awesome time with Auntie, and we're trying to close to a close now. But just before the break, you had started speaking about you and your career, and relating it with the girl child again, and the ladies and the career, the women and career, and the perception, which thankfully it's changing, which is what you're celebrating, the fact that is changing now. But in the 80s when you started, it wasn't quite so. And I was saying that this was very much relevant to one of our recent episodes. I think it was episode 20, when I had Ondi Adebowale in, a growing star in Wall Street now in corporate America. And we were discussing that topic, igniting the power within. And the reason that topic was because we said, hey, women, especially women of color, in America's corporate, have these systemic challenges that are there already against them. And so you find that you must therefore look to the power within, to confront those challenges. And I like what you said, it's not about the lipstick and the brown powder only. You've got content. If you've invested time and knowledge in yourself, you've got to show content. So that's, that brings me to my next question, where if we look at our topic today, we're talking about our women, our mothers, as silent achievers. Now, what does achievement mean to you? From your profile that I read at the beginning of the show, you are an achiever. You have told us how you were motivated to achieve. Sometimes you didn't even have a choice to win, but by the grace of God, you have won thus far. So what does achievement really mean to you as mothers? How does it also change? Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. When you are much younger, or when I was much younger, achievement to me meant my personal achievement. Meant focusing on myself, whatever it was that I had to achieve in life. You have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor, an engineer, or whatever, and so on. Then as you progress in age, it changes to you want to be a mother. For a woman, the society is still of the view in African setting that you must be married, whether we want to accept it or not. That is our concept. It goes without saying.
We got to be real.
Yeah, it's as if you're not fulfilled as a man or as a woman if you don't have a spouse. So you find that at that age, when the society believes that you should be married, your achievement will change, and it will now focus on getting a spouse. And as you get older, you have children, your own achievement now will change to their own success in life. At my age now, I will say, to the glory of God, my achievement can only be the achievement of my children and grandchildren. Because at a stage, you don't talk about what you have achieved. What have you achieved as a woman at over 60? You look at the blessings of God in your life. You look at the grace of God in your life. When you wake up in the morning, you don't pray for yourself. You pray for children. You pray for grandchildren. You pray for their successes. They're going for exams. They're going for job interview. Whatever it is they're doing, you lay more emphasis on that. And that's why when you see people are being celebrated, a 60-year-old, a 70-year-old, they call for children, they call for grandchildren. You don't hang certificates with her. You don't ask for a PhD certificate. These are the joys of life. These are the achievements of the silent mothers. The nights that they kept praying about success, marriages. We fast and pray for the success of a marriage ceremony. When the child is pregnant, we don't stop. They get married, we are still praying. We support them financially, physically, emotionally. You never let them go. Even if a woman has 20 children, they all have special places in our heart. And their successes one at a time. Why do mothers leave Nigeria, leave their husbands, and go and spend 6 months in the US? To go and look after their children. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying to you, the love of a mother. The mother will say, there's no nanny in this world that can take care of my grandchildren better than myself. I'd rather be there. I'd rather be there to look after them. So I will say to you that as we get older, as mothers, our appreciation of achievement will definitely change. When you are in your 80s, you don't talk about yourself anymore. You ask, where's my grandson? Where's my great-grandson? What is he doing? You hold their hands, you hug them, you pray for them. Whatever you have achieved personally in any realm or aspect of life will be minimal. Because your concentration now is where you're going. And what are you leaving behind? What is the legacy? When you see your children succeeding, graduation ceremonies and things like that, you're a proud mother. You're a proud father. You go there and thank God and point and say, this is my daughter. This is my son. You won't say, yes, I have a PhD. Yes, you had a PhD. You're a good luck. But you're talking of something else now. So I think for us is to celebrate the grace of God in our lives.
Auntie, I could just allow the camera just continue rolling and just listen to you speak, and I can just imagine our viewers just like, wow, there's some sugar right now, there's some power. And this is, and as you were speaking, it was you that told me one of the days when Sisi was still around, and because you'd always, we'll call you, always talk about who taught you Sisi and all that, which is our responsibility as as kids to our parents. And I want to use this opportunity, let me face the camera for a minute, and say that for all you, my viewers, find yourself, once you still have your parents, please take good care of them. It is your responsibility to do so. And there is a blessing that is attached to it. You say, honor your father and your father and your mother, your days may be long. So there's a blessing attached to it.
May I say something,
yes,
Afolabi? What endeared me towards you was probably about 6-7 years ago, we had a ceremony in church, and you came. And the way you guided Sisi, your mother, it was like you were guarding an egg. She should not fall. You embraced her. She got up from her seat. Your right hand was behind her back, and you held her. And it was like, like they would say, egungun in the village, Lagos Island. Egungun ba jade, era on to ma tele leyin. And you were there for Sisi. Of course, I sat like 7-8 pews behind you. And that touched me. That look at the way a son is looking after the mother. Your mother meant so much to you. And that was consistent in our lifetime. There was no single opportunity to celebrate your mother that you were not there. Of course, you were very busy. But you had time for Sisi. And immediately Sisi saw you, you saw the likeness in her spirit.
Yep. Yeah.
You saw her smile, and she will pray for you. And there were occasions when I saw her before the harvest, and we say, she will say that to me. It goes a long way when the mother says, for mommy, because that is a child that is making the mother happy. And it is a privilege to look after a parent.
Yeah.
We take it for granted. People are orphans. People lost their parents or their mothers when they were 2-3 year olds. And when you have a privilege to see your mother up to 70 to 75, I don't even know how to describe it. My mother died in my arms. She was 83. We were 5. And I can say to you, it was a privilege to have looked after my mother. My mother said to me, Debo, the day I'm going to die, you will be by my bedside. I traveled a lot. And I came back that morning. She was in the hospital. I called her. I went out there to see her. And I was by her bedside. She looked around the room. And my mother said to me, Debo, they are here.
The angels.
I said, they are here. So I said, Mama, I want they are here. Where are they? She said, I said, so what's happening? She said, they brought a coffin. Oh my God. I said, they brought what? She said, they brought a coffin. I tried to hide my tears. So I said, what did you say to them? She said, don't mind them, dearie. I said, Mama, tell them you are going nowhere. Tell them they are tell them they're going nowhere. So I said, excuse me. So I went outside and I broke down. And I cried. I called our pastor. Called the long story short, the pastor came, gave her Holy Communion. I was by her bedside and I sat her up. She was, I held her hand. I just saw the screen. The BP was going down. It was 80, 50, and so on. And there was single line across and just slumped in my arm. So, to me, that was priceless. She prayed for me. She prayed with me. And she said to me not to worry. So, Afolabi, I must congratulate you.
Yeah.
You are celebrating your mother. You are celebrating Sisi, and it means so much to all mothers outside. This is what we pray for. It's not just to, at the end of the day, buy 1 million naira coffin. Spend so much money on burial expenses. No mother is interested in that. My mother will say to me, give me ever water now in my lifetime.
Exactly.
Than buying whatever pure water or whatever it is. You cannot celebrate, yes, what I did not eat. Some mothers I've had in Lagos Island who have caused some children. But whatever you do not give to me in my lifetime, you will not eat it. Some feel so bad. So continue to celebrate, Sisi.
Auntie, thank you so much, man. And this is really a lesson for a lot of, because, you were the one that told me then, at any point in time, this is so part of that, at any point in time, just go to your mother and let her pray for you. Just hold on to her and let her pray for you. And you can't quantify, those blessings. And that's because, as well, as you just rightly said, as you grow older, the perception changes, your perspective changes, and your focus changes. And so, for mothers as well, especially, because you still see some of our men, still chasing, the big dollars, even down to their grave. But, for our mothers, and that's why I said these are silent achievers, because they so gracefully allow themselves to take the backstage and allow their children to come up front. And the joys of the success of their children become their joy. I mean, if an emeritus professor could tell us that story, and and I'm like, wow, these are the things mothers do that you don't even know about. I remember for us, when we were of the age to go to secondary school, and my dad was this, disciplinarian by the book, do your 6 years, 6 years primary before you go into secondary school. But my mom was of the opinion that, do a test trial in primary 5. If you make it and still don't go, is a choice. But if you don't make it, you then can, practice and get a better experience in your primary 6, rather than you don't make it in primary 6, then you now have an extra year before you can go into, for your common entrance, before you can go into secondary school. And my mom then said, okay, don't worry. She paid for the application. And so when it was now time to go write the exam, was a weekend, logistics needed to be made. My dad is in charge of logistics, driver, car, whatever. So my mom now said, our mom lost a common entrance. So, my dad, primary, common entrance. But I was like, my dad was like, I can't remember. Didn't they have to apply? My mom obviously said, Daddy, you can't remember. You were the one that said, obviously she had gone at the back scene to try and make sure that because she paid us, she paid the school, but she had found a way to get her money back. Anyway, Daddy and I said, okay. So when we brought the slip, of course, he gracefully made the arrangements, went to do the exam. Now, results also came, she passed. But again, my dad, his traditionalist mentality, and we discussed it during Intergen. I think I made that point with Professor Oluwaina because Shegu complained of the same thing about Prof. He wasn't going to raise a finger. Meanwhile, other mothers were telling when she comes to pick us, other mothers, they meet, where the parents wait. They were telling her, have you gotten notice? They are here, they do. My mom will not, it was my mom that now told my dad, hey, Nigeria tiyato, and which he later confessed, much later even, which we heard last year during the documentary, that he didn't train his children for this Nigeria he's now living in now. That's 1989. Where, my mom, Nigeria tiyato, Daddy, you have to make a move. Marriage don't just work, because in his own days it was about marriage. Absolutely. It was this now you know your daughter passed. So are you expecting that? He said, but the system pass now. Then food from my mom. My dad then had to go to Lagos. He just called, at that time, Chief Grilonga of blessed memory was his SGF, Secretary of Government Federation at the time. Just called down and said, Oga, for whatever will make you come to my office. You are our founding fathers in this work we are doing anyway. And by the time my dad got back from that meeting, my dad was now shaking his head. Firstly, thanking my mom,
for enlightening me.
If you did not push me, that was his first. And I said, he's not started shaking his head. Nigeria Tibaje. Can you imagine? My daughter passed. Her name was on, it was one that was not telling us, her name was on first list. Between first list and list that got to school, name was nowhere to be found. It had been replaced somewhere. It was, because is that what happens in Nigeria? So by the time it was my own turn, nobody needed to. He started pressing all the buttons. If I hear again, if I hear. And the point is, these are the acts. There's so many silent acts that our mothers do play behind the scene. And that's why our joy is always their joy. And, so, Auntie, my last point is this. And I want to use your story again to encourage a lot of our viewers, particularly because of the COVID-19, which has thrown a lot of homes into unexpected money. America, if you look at the count with America, over 500,000 plus. These are lies, not just statistics. And then all over the world, in Nigeria as well, we have many near losses. Of course, some not just COVID, some other acts of life. And now, not even think about the ones that happen that are needless, whether it's kidnapping and things like that. So there's just many homes right now that are actually struggling. And many of them are struggling from losses, and especially losses of loved ones. And when I look at your life, in many ways similar to Sisi's life, loss of husband, which you have, loss of a daughter, your first child, in Sisi's case, Bratunji passed on in our lifetime, What encouragement do you have for a lot of young women out there right now who are struggling with one loss or the other? I don't want to assume, we safely say women are shock absorbers. They are able to bounce back because they transfer their love to their children. Well, true, but it's also not easy. These are emotions here. But because you have gone through it, you're in the best place to share some practical help that they may just be able to find, and I'm sure that a lot of them need. Yes.
I think, to me, every loss is personal.
Yeah.
And to me, the most painful loss in the world of any human being is the loss of a child. There is no way to describe it. When I lost my first child in the year 2001, she has finished her master's. She was at the University of Surrey, Guildford. She did her master's in pharmacology. And as a matter of fact, she was thinking of doing her PhD in sedimentology.
Wow.
Absolutely brilliant. Cut the long story short, she died. It was very, very painful for me. It was the first time I had the privilege, because it's still a privilege to have a loss in your life. Life it's inevitable. People will die. We do not wish it on anybody. Yeah. I pray for the repose of my daughter's soul. And since then, I've lost my father, lost my mother, I've lost my husband. So you find that as you get older, you have different losses in your life. And it takes the grace of God to cope with every loss, because every loss would affect you different ways. And for a woman, when you see a woman who has gone through so much, we carry so much in our hearts. However, we still have to be strong for the society. We still have to. The music must go on.
Yeah.
That's it. The music must go on. But what I find in life, which sometimes we do not appreciate, is that it seems as if it's a lot easier for a woman to cope with the death of a husband than a man to cope with the death of a wife. Because the way men are wired, men are not wired to do housework, to look after themselves. You find that some men you're talking about have been pampered and looked after over the years by their wives. Sometimes they do not even know where to start from. But women, because of our own training, because of the way we are built, because of the way God has created us, we have the grace, because it is grace, to be able to bounce back. So we pray all the time that we do not suffer any loss. However, if it happens, it is still the grace of God. Yeah. That we need to continue in whatever sphere and whatever aspect, because as I believe, it's going to affect us. And like the death of my daughter, we're talking about it now, I'm emotional. And that was over 20 years ago. So it takes the grace of God. And even in the lifetime of Sisi, I remember there was a time we were talking as well. And she mentioned it to me and I was shocked. And you know, by the time she left me, she brought out the tissue and wiped her eyes. And it was an issue that I never discussed again with her, because that was when she was talking to me about my own daughter. And that brought memory of our own pain to her. So it's the grace of God. It is well. Yeah, it is well.
Yep. I mean, we would. It's true. It's really God's grace, and it takes is the one that continues to comfort us through it all. Time is one thing we don't have control over. God has ultimate control over time, but we're glad that we're able to do as much as we can within the context of time. We could just continue, and I could just allow the camera continue to roll, because until you have so much to still give humanity, so much, you are very loaded, and I know that you continue to give. So I want to just say thank you. Thank you so much. I couldn't have thought of any other person to have done this feature for me but you, because Sisi will not just be in the abstract. Any other person, Sisi may be in the abstract, but you definitely, you know her, you related with her, and there are many corollaries as well that we could draw, and which I know that our viewers have been blessed by today. So any last final words to the camera? So let's...
Well, what can I say? It will be about you, Afolabi, now. Because, like I said to you, when Sisi died, I sent some messages to you. And let me assure you that I meant those words, and I still mean them now. You are a son in a million. You know, the Englishman will say besotted. I don't think we use such words anymore. You know, besotted. Yes, that was your relationship with your mother. You held your mother in the highest esteem, that the members of St. John's Anglican Church, Charoloya, especially the young men, we had discussions after Sisi's burial, and some of the mothers said to them, Jerry, Afolabi, can you relate to Afolabi's relationship with his mother? Afolabi was there for the mother, unconditional love. So I want to wish you well. in whatever it is that you're doing. I pray that God will continue to bless the work of your hands. And let me assure you that Sisi is proud of you. You are a son in a million. And your own children and children's children will surround your table in good health.
Amen.
God bless you. Thank you for inviting me.
Amen. Wow. So yes, thank you. This show will mean a lot to many people. I know there will be handkerchief in the eyes of many as we speak, or in the hands of many as we speak. I couldn't have brought my sister to do this. It would have broken down 10 minutes into the show. It's again, the pain is real, but the grace is also real. A year ago, I didn't think that, as much as you know it, but you will just wonder. And I remember telling a few friends, I can't wait till that time when we'll begin to talk about Sisi and I can actually laugh and smile. And I'm glad for the grace of God. It's only the grace of God. It's still so surreal. But you see, that's the joy you also have when you have done your own bit. By the grace of God, I have no regret whatsoever. No regret, because every time, and I said to her, when we were planning our 70th, I made sure certain things happened and see that her biography, she wrote it herself. Those who have become family and friends that she cared about, she wrote the names herself. And I said, we jointly planned her birthday a year in advance. And I said to her at the time, when I said, about the 70, the departure station. Bible says 70, and if by reason of grace 80. That's so. What I am doing is prepare in the sense that I say you will still stay long, but bad day. It is easy for us to just continue. We'll just add on to what you have now done and things like that. And that's simply because by the grace of God, we lived in the consciousness of the fact that it could be any time. The short documentary that you watched during the intermission, there was one song she sang. It was a year, exactly a year. That was the documentary in preparing for Daddy's 30th, which was 2019. And the same April 2020, like I said, she started bidding us good way. And that song was Ìgbàgbọ́ mi dúró lórí ẹ̀jẹ̀ àtòdodo Jésù, kò jẹ́ gbẹ́kẹ̀lé ohun kan lẹ́yìn orúkọ ńlá Jésù mo dúró lé. Before we sing, because the second verse that she sang herself, and that was ìgbà tí pé kẹ́yìn bá sì dùn à ń bá lè wà nínú Jésù. Bó ti wù kí jìnnà pẹ́ tó, ìdákọ̀ró mi kò níyẹ̀ mo dúró lé Kristi àpáta. Ilé mìíràn ìyanrìn ló jẹ́ mo dúró lé Kristi àpáta ayérayé. Ilé mìíràn bàbá ò ìyanrìn ni. Auntie, when you're talking about your experience with momming, because they always know when the time is around. And a few personal things which I won't share now happened on that day that I said was our official final birthday, which was Daddy's birthday, funny enough, in 2020, April 25, 2020. But you know what was funny? At the time when she started saying to Afolabi, ma lolly, muni ilewu, ilelewa. And I thought because at some point when she was becoming uncomfortable, Sisi Chefe lost hospital because she's the one that also doesn't like to go to hospital. Chefe lost hospital, I've called the doctor is coming. It was then it hit me that and I said, Sisi, love me kankan. Ṣé àwọn tó ń sọ fún yín sọ fún ẹ pé tí kò yá o kò síbi tẹ́ ẹ̀ lọ sí pé ikú ò ń ṣe portion tí pé èmi kì yóò kú bí kò ṣe yíyè. In other words, I will not die but live to declare the glory of God. That's the English version. She then responded to me, Fọlábí ikú ò ń ṣe portion tèmi. I said, tó bá ti jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀,
you have an agreement.
But much later again, Fọlábí, ìwọ dààmú orí ẹ jẹ́ máa lọ́lé. And so for me, that's the assurance that I have to know that it was time. She needed to go rest from her labors. And what is left for us is really to just celebrate our life and times. There's a lot of life lessons from our life, and I thought of no better person than my Aunty Edna, who is a living embodiment of even much more, that she's shared with us today. Time won't allow me to recap as I usually do, but in one of my next series about AI and you, I will take your feedbacks and I will also make some of my recaps. But let me also let you know that our email is also is on the screen. It's ednaakonde@gmail.com. So if you want to reach her, share some thoughts or request for mentorship or whatever, she would, you can always reach her, and I'm sure she has a whole lot to share with you and with the world. We definitely will bring her back again at some point. There's been a request for us to discuss law and things like that. So law, civil, human rights, and a few things. So I'm sure I will bring her back again on set. At that point, she'll be more technical. Okay, so I think that's all time we'll take. I want to, we have a praise night for her in celebrating Sisi's life and legacy. So the praise night will be happening. The details are on the screen. The praise night will be hosted by one of our beloved pastors as well, Prophet Sam Olualo of the Adamimogo, CAC Adamimogo Outreach. His church in Lagos. The church in Lagos is in Ogombo, which is in the Ajah axis. It would hold Friday night. It will be a praise night vigil, and we would have guests like Mama Bare, and a few other artists that would be at that vigil. So it will host Friday night into Saturday morning, which is May 1st, the actual day of transition. So the YouTube link, the Facebook link, wherein you can watch live on Facebook and on YouTube, will be shared. For those of you who are in the vicinity and want to come, please, open invitation is the house of God. It's always open to you. You can be there. For my friends and family that are asking for where is the rice and soup very plenty going to happen, we will share that at a later date. We still have global travel restrictions and the COVID protocols at this point, so we will not be doing the RSVP on Saturday as we had originally planned. We would want the COVID to really go away. So let's see, with vaccinations ramping up and all of that, from what I'm hearing in the last few days, America begins to open its borders in a few weeks and all that. So once my siblings and our siblings are able to travel in from Canada and around the globe, we will fix a later date and we'll let you know. So yes, for today, the RSVP will be spiritual. So join us for a praise night tomorrow at Ogombo, and then we'll do the feeding one much later. So until I come your way again next week, wherein we'll be having another exciting episode and an interesting guest, don't forget our hashtag, the Never an Afterthought. Follow us across all our social media channels, Twitter at NAA_book, Facebook and Instagram at NA Afterthought. Podcast at neveranafterthought.com is our email, and you can always leave us your comments on the platform wherein you're listening or watching us. I'll see you again next week, same time, Thursday, 6 p.m. And on this channel, it won't change, the Never an Afterthought channel. Till then, stay safe so you can stay well, and above all, keep winning. God bless you.